You probably planted tomatoes and potatoes in the same raised bed this spring. Maybe even fennel next to your peppers. Seemed fine at the time. But right now, under the soil, one of those plants is releasing chemicals from its roots that are slowly poisoning the other. Not starving it or shading it, but chemically attacking it. And by the time you notice the yellowing leaves and the wilting stems, the damage is already done. These are the companion planting pairs you need to separate before you lose the whole bed. What nobody knew for decades, while gardening magazines kept printing those cheerful companion planting charts, was that some of the most popular vegetable pairings are actively sabotaging each other underground. The science has a name for it: allelopathy. Certain plants release compounds from their roots, their leaves, even their decomposing bark, that suppress the growth of nearby plants. Think of it like a neighbor who seems perfectly friendly, but keeps pouring bleach along the fence line when you are not looking. The damage is invisible until everything on your side starts dying. Today you are getting 11 of the worst offenders. Pairs that gardeners put together every season because they seem like they should work, and the real science behind why they do not. Every entry includes what to plant instead, so you are not just pulling things apart. You are rebuilding the bed smarter. Number 11. Tomatoes and potatoes. This one is the most common mistake in backyard vegetable gardening, and it makes perfect sense why people do it. Both are in the nightshade family. Both love warm soil, full sun, and rich compost. So you figure they belong together. They do not. According to gardenia.net, tomatoes and potatoes share vulnerability to the same fungal diseases, especially late blight. Phytophthora infestans, the pathogen behind late blight, can spread from one plant to the other through splashing water, wind, and even contaminated soil. One infected potato plant can take out your entire tomato crop within days, and it works the other direction too. The pathogen does not care which nightshade it starts on. Beyond the disease risk, both plants are heavy feeders that draw the same nutrients from the same soil depth. Growing them side by side is like inviting two guests to dinner and setting one plate. They will both eat, but neither one gets a full meal. Plant tomatoes with basil or marigolds instead. For your potatoes, move them to a completely separate bed and pair them with horseradish or beans. The more distance between nightshade family members, the safer every plant in the family becomes. Number 10. Fennel and almost everything. Fennel is the loner of the vegetable garden, and there is real chemistry behind it. According to Biology Insights, fennel produces allelopathic compounds, primarily anethole and fencone, that suppress germination and root development in neighboring plants. Those compounds leak from the roots into the surrounding soil and interfere with how nearby seedlings absorb water and nutrients. Think of it like someone salting the earth in a ring around their own territory. Tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, beans, and most brassicas all struggle when planted near fennel. The nightshade family is especially sensitive. Peppers planted within a couple of feet of fennel often show stunted growth that gardeners blame on weather or soil quality when the real culprit is sitting right next to them. According to Homes and Gardens, the recommendation is to grow fennel in its own dedicated corner of the garden, or in a separate container entirely. Give it at least 3 to 4 feet of buffer from everything else. The silver lining is that fennel produces umbrella-shaped flowers that attract beneficial insects like ladybugs and parasitic wasps. So it earns its garden rent. It just needs to live in the guest house, not the main building. Number 9. Onions and beans. This pairing catches people off guard because onions and beans are both staples of a budget vegetable garden. You want to grow them close together to save space. According to gardenia.net, alliums like onions, garlic, shallots, and leeks stunt the growth of beans. All types of beans. Bush beans, pole beans, and fava beans. The mechanism is chemical. Onions release sulfur-based compounds from their roots that interfere with the nitrogen-fixing bacteria that beans depend on. Beans form a partnership with bacteria in the soil that pull nitrogen from the air and feed it to the plant. Think of those bacteria like a kitchen crew that preps free meals for the bean plant every day. Onion root chemicals walk into that kitchen and shut it down. The bean plant still grows, but it produces fewer pods and weaker vines because it lost its main source of nitrogen. Plant your beans with carrots or corn instead. The classic Three Sisters combination of corn, beans, and squash exists for a reason. The beans fix nitrogen that feeds the corn provides a trellis for the beans to climb, and the squash shades the soil to keep moisture in. Onions do well paired with lettuce, beets, or chamomile. Number 8. Cucumbers and sage. Cucumbers are sensitive to strong aromatic herbs, and sage is one of the worst offenders. According to gardenia.net, the essential oils that make sage smell wonderful to you are growth inhibitors for cucumbers. The oils evaporate from sage leaves, settle on nearby foliage, and slow down the metabolic processes that drive cucumber vine growth. Imagine trying to sleep in a room full of perfume. You are not being poisoned, but your body cannot function normally. That is what sage does to a cucumber plant. Rosemary causes a similar problem. Both herbs produce volatile oils that cucumber plants absorb through their leaves, and those oils interfere with photosynthesis and water uptake. You end up with vines that look healthy enough at first glance but produce fewer cucumbers than they should, and the fruit that does develop is often bitter or undersized. Plant cucumbers with dill, sunflowers, or lettuce instead. Keep sage in a separate herb bed or a container on the patio where it cannot bother your cucumbers. Number 7. Carrots and dill. This one surprises people because both plants look like they belong together. They are in the same botanical family, Apiaceae, and they even have similar feathery foliage. That family resemblance is exactly the problem. According to Homes and Gardens, when dill is allowed to flower near carrots, the two can cross-pollinate. The result is carrots with off flavors and distorted root shapes that no amount of good soil can fix. Beyond the cross-pollination risk, both plants compete for the same nutrients at the same root depth. Two family members fighting over the same inheritance. There is a timing nuance here. Young dill plants that have not flowered yet can coexist briefly with carrots. But once the dill sends up those yellow umbrella flowers, the cross-pollination window opens and the damage begins. Since few gardeners track their dill's flowering schedule, the safest approach is to keep them apart from the start. Pair your carrots with rosemary or chives instead. Dill grows happily alongside cabbage, lettuce, or onions. Number 6. Corn and tomatoes. Both are summer garden staples, and plenty of gardeners plant them in the same large raised bed or air plot. This pairing is a pest magnet. Corn earworms and tomato fruitworms are the same insect, Helicoverpaceae. When you plant corn and tomatoes together, you are giving that pest a continuous buffet across your entire garden. The larvae feed on corn silk first, then migrate to the ripening tomatoes and burrow inside, leaving holes at the stem that rot the fruit from the inside. The pest lays eggs on the corn silks, the larvae hatch and feed there, and then as the corn matures and dries out, they move to the nearest soft fruit. Tomatoes are usually the closest option. One pest, two crops destroyed. Beyond the earworm problem, both plants are nitrogen-hungry heavy feeders. Growing them in the same soil depletes it so fast that neither plant performs at its best. Separate them by at least 15 feet. Pair corn with beans and squash in the traditional Three Sisters arrangement. Tomatoes do better alongside basil, peppers, or marigolds. Number 5. Brassicas and strawberries. Broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts are cool-season brassicas that gardeners sometimes plant near their strawberry patch, especially in spring when both crops are getting established. According to Taste of Home, brassicas and strawberries are poor companions. Brassicas release compounds that suppress strawberry root development, and the two plant families attract different pest populations that can compound each other's problems. If you have ever noticed your strawberry plants producing smaller fruit or fewer runners in beds that also contain broccoli or cabbage, this pairing is likely the reason. Strawberries need their own dedicated space, ideally in a raised bed or container, where they can spread without chemical interference from brassicas. A strawberry patch is a long-term investment. Some varieties produce for 3 to 5 years from a single planting. Letting brassicas undermine that investment from the start costs you years of fruit. Strawberries grow well with lettuce, spinach, and borage. Brassicas pair nicely with onions, celery, or dill. If you are getting value from this, consider subscribing. More gardening breakdowns like this one go up regularly on the channel. While all of these pairings involve root zone conflict or disease sharing, the next group involves a different kind of sabotage. Chemical warfare above ground, and allelopathic toxins that linger in the soil long after the offending plant is gone. Number 4. Sunflowers and small-seeded vegetables. Sunflowers are one of the most beloved garden plants, and people interplant them with everything from tomatoes to lettuce. According to Gardenia.net, sunflowers are allelopathic. They release over 200 natural compounds from their roots, stems, and decomposing leaves that inhibit the germination of nearby seeds. Small-seeded vegetables like lettuce, carrots, and beets are especially vulnerable. The allelopathic chemicals suppress root elongation in tiny seedlings, so the seeds germinate but never develop strong enough roots to establish. You end up with spotty germination and stunted growth, and the seed packet gets blamed when the sunflower was the problem the entire time. The chemicals persist in the soil even after the sunflowers are gone. If you grow sunflowers in a bed one season and then try to plant lettuce or carrots there the following spring, you may still see reduced germination. Composting or tilling under the sunflower residue and waiting several weeks before replanting gives the compounds time to break down. Keep sunflowers at least 3 to 4 feet away from small-seeded vegetables. They work well alongside zinnias, cucumbers, or squash, which have larger seeds and more robust root systems that handle the allelopathic effect. Number 3. Black walnut and nightshades. If you have a black walnut tree in your yard and your tomatoes, peppers, or eggplant keep dying for no apparent reason, the tree is the problem. Black walnut trees produce a compound called juglone. According to Biology Insights, juglone is a naphthoquinone that inhibits cellular respiration in sensitive plants. It cuts off their ability to produce energy at the cellular level. Think of it the way carbon monoxide works in a closed room. The plant is breathing, but the air is poisoned. Juglone is present in every part of the tree: roots, bark, leaves, and especially the green nut husks. According to gardenia.net, plants within a wide radius of a mature black walnut, that is not a small zone. Tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, potatoes, blueberries, and azale are all highly sensitive. Symptoms include yellowing leaves, wilting even when the soil is moist, and eventual death. The concentration is highest beneath the tree's drip line, where fallen leaves and nut husks decompose. Even removing the tree does not solve the problem immediately, because juglone persists in the root system as it decays underground. If you are wondering whether that old stump in the corner of your yard is still affecting your garden, the answer is probably yes. If you have a black walnut on your property, plant nightshades and other sensitive crops as far from the tree as possible. Beds with a barrier at the bottom can help, but only if they are outside the root zone. Beans, beets, carrots, corn, and most squash tolerate juglone and can be planted closer to the tree. Number 2. Mint and container neighbors. Mint is a wonderful herb for tea, cooking, and pest control. It is also a garden bully that will take over every inch of soil you give it access to. According to gardenia.net, mint spreads through underground runners called rhizomes that grow in every direction, outcompeting neighboring plants for water and nutrients. The mistake gardeners make is planting mint directly in a raised bed or garden row alongside other herbs and vegetables. Within a single growing season, mint runners invade the root zones of basil, cilantro, parsley, and even tomatoes. The surrounding plants get crowded out and starved. Think of rhizomes like a subway system running beneath the surface. Your mint is not just growing where you planted it. It is sending out underground trains in every direction, establishing stations in your pepper patch, your lettuce bed, and your neighbor's yard. Always grow mint in a container. A 12-inch pot with no drainage holes on the bottom that connect to the ground works well. You can sink the container into a garden bed so it looks integrated, but the pot walls keep the rhizomes contained. Peppermint, spearmint, and chocolate mint are all aggressive spreaders. No variety is safe to plant directly in the ground near other crops. Number 1. Asparagus and garlic. Asparagus takes years to establish. A well-maintained asparagus bed can produce for over a decade once the crowns mature, which is why getting the companion planting right from the start matters more here than with any other vegetable. According to gardenia.net, garlic and other alliums stunt asparagus growth. The sulfur compounds that alliums release into the soil interfere with asparagus root development at a stage when those roots need every advantage they can get. New asparagus crowns spend their first 2 to 3 years building root mass before you harvest a single spear. Planting garlic nearby during that critical establishment period slows root expansion and delays your first harvest by a full season or more. For a crop that already asks you to wait years before eating, losing an extra season to a bad neighbor is a painful setback. According to momsneedtalknow.com, onions and shallots cause the same problem. Keep all alliums away from asparagus beds entirely. Pair asparagus with tomatoes, parsley, or basil instead. Tomatoes contain solanine, a compound that repels asparagus beetles. It is one of the few pairings where both plants actively protect each other. Your asparagus keeps producing for years, and the tomatoes growing nearby act as a free bodyguard service against the beetles that would otherwise strip the ferns bare every summer. The thread running through every single one of these pairs is the same. The damage happens underground, out of sight, before the symptoms ever show up on the leaves. By the time you see wilting, yellowing, or stunted growth, the root-level sabotage has been going on for weeks. Knowing which plants to separate is cheaper than replacing dead crops, less frustrating than blaming your soil or your watering schedule, and the kind of knowledge that pays off every season for as long as you garden. If any of these pairs are in your beds right now, there is still time to move them. And if you want more breakdowns like this one, the channel covers gardening topics that save you time, money, and dead plants every week.